The second noble truth: suffering has a cause. Greetings, my friends. Today, we step deeper into the Buddha's wisdom, into the second noble truth, a revelation that shifts the ground beneath us. Suffering isn't a random storm, it has a cause, a root we can trace and understand. The Buddha called this cause tanha, craving, thirst, desire, a force so familiar yet so elusive, entwined with ignorance, the quiet veil that clouds our vision. This isn't about pointing fingers or piling on guilt, it's about clarity, about peeling back the layers of our pain to see what drives it. We suffer because we cling to things, to people, to dreams of how life should be, and because we miss the truth staring us in the face. Everything flows, nothing is truly ours, and we're not the isolated islands we imagine ourselves to be. I've walked this truth through decades of life, from the humid jungles of Thailand to the concrete canyons of Chicago, from silent retreats in Kyoto to bustling markets in Cairo. I've seen it in the eyes of the weary, the ambitious, the broken, and in my own heart too. The second noble truth isn't a lecture, it's a mirror, reflecting our habits, our hungers, our blind spots. It's an invitation to look, to feel, to wake up. So, let's sit together now, wherever you are, whatever you carry, and explore this cause of suffering with open hearts and fearless minds. Take a breath with me. Let it settle. Here we go. A window into Craving, Hannah's story. Let me start with a story that still echoes in me. It was a crisp autumn afternoon in Kyoto, Japan, during a retreat I was guiding. The temple grounds were ablaze with red and gold leaves, the air sharp with the scent of pine. After a long meditation session, a woman named Hannah approached me. She was in her 30s, a graphic designer with a quiet intensity, her hands twisting nervously as she sat across from me on a wooden bench. "I'm obsessed with being perfect," she said, her voice low but trembling. "My work has to be flawless, every pixel, every line. My body has to be fit, my relationship smooth. I push and push, but I'm exhausted. I can't stop." I looked into her eyes, bright, yet shadowed with fatigue, and asked, "What are you holding so tight, Hannah?" She paused, her fingers stilling for a moment, then whispered, approval. "Control. If I'm not perfect, who am I?" That was it, tanha, the craving that gripped her like a vine. She thirsted for a flawless self, a life without cracks, a shield of admiration and certainty. But the harder she clung, the deeper her dukkha sank: exhaustion, anxiety, a gnawing sense of never being enough. We sat there, the wind rustling the leaves, and I said, "Hannah, the Buddha saw this too. We suffer not because life fails us, but because we chase what can't be held." She nodded, tears welling, and I saw the first crack in her armor, not weakness, but awakening. The three faces of tanha, craving's many masks. The Buddha didn't just name tanha, he mapped it, showing us its three distinct faces, each a thread in the web of suffering. Let's walk through them, not as dry theory, but as living forces we've all felt, forces I've seen ripple through lives across the globe. Kama tanha, craving for pleasure. First, there's kama tanha, the craving for sensual pleasure, the hunger for delight that dances on our tongues, our skin, our eyes. Think of chasing a sweet dessert after a long day, the rush of a new phone unboxed, the fleeting thrill of a late-night binge on your favorite show. It's the pull toward what feels good, what soothes us, what distracts us from the ache. I've seen it in the quiet corners of retreat halls. In a monastery in Thailand, I once caught a novice monk sneaking a piece of chocolate from his robe, his face lit up with guilt and glee as he popped it into his mouth. "I just needed a break," he confessed later, sheepish. That was kama tanha, a small craving, but real. In a retreat in California, a woman admitted, "I meditate, but I keep checking my phone for likes, it's like a drug." The pull of pleasure, even in mindfulness, tugs us back to suffering. I've felt it too. Years ago, after a grueling day of teaching in London, I craved a cup of tea, not just any tea, but the perfect one, steeped just right, with a splash of milk. When the cafe got it wrong, too weak, too cold, I felt a flash of irritation, a tiny storm in my chest. That was kama tanha, whispering, "This will fix you," then laughing when it didn't. Bhava tanha, craving for existence. Then there's bhava tanha, the craving for existence, for being someone, for carving a solid me into the world. It's the thirst to matter, to stand out, to build a self that others see and admire. In London, I met a banker named James, mid-40s, sharp suit, sharper ambition. "Over tea in a sleek office," he said, "I need to be the best, it's who I am." If I'm not at the top, what's the point? His craving wasn't for money, it was for identity, for a permanent James etched in gold. But the higher he climbed, the more he feared falling, and his dukkha grew: sleepless nights, strained relationships, a heart always racing. I've seen it in quieter places too. In a village in Vietnam, a farmer named Duc showed me his rice fields with pride. "This is my life," he said. When a flood washed half of it away, he didn't just mourn the crop, he mourned himself, his dukkness tied to the land. That's Baba Tanha, clinging to a story of who we are, suffering when it cracks. I've wrestled with it myself. Early in my teaching years, I craved recognition, a nod from a senior monk, a full room of students. When a workshop in Seattle drew only 5 people, I felt a pang, not just disappointment, but a wound to my teacher self. That craving fueled my dukkha, a restless need to be. Vibhava tanha, craving for non-existence. Finally, there's Vibhava tanha, the craving for non-existence, the urge to escape, to push away pain, to vanish from what's hard. It's the flip side of wanting, it's wanting not to be. In a retreat in Bali, a student named Maya told me, "I meditate to escape my problems, my job, my fights with my mom. I just want it all to stop." Her craving wasn't for pleasure or status, it was for absence, for a void where suffering couldn't reach. But running deepened her dukkha, leaving her disconnected, adrift. I've seen it in darker moments. In a prison in South Africa, I met a man named Thabo, locked away for a decade. "I dream of disappearing," he said, staring at the concrete wall. "No more guilt, no more bars." His Vibhava tanha was a desperate flight from pain, but it chained him tighter to despair. Even in freedom, it shows up. In a bar in Dublin, a woman told me, "I drink to forget my ex." Escape beckoned, but suffering followed. I've felt its pull too. After a friend's death in my 30s, I sat in meditation, wishing the grief away, Vibhava tanha whispering, "If you could just not feel this," but pushing made it heavier, not lighter. Underscore 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 underscore. Ignorance, the silent root. Beneath these cravings lies ignorance, not stupidity, but a blindness to reality's pulse. Everything changes, nothing is mine, we're not separate. The Buddha called it avijja, the fog that keeps us grasping. In a workshop in Chicago, a man named Mike stood up, red-faced, and shouted, "I can't let go, it's my life." He saw himself as a fixed mic, a solid, stand-alone I, not a flow of breath, thoughts, moments. That misunderstanding drove his tanha, his suffering a loop of clinging to a mirage. I've seen it everywhere. In a market in Mexico City, a vendor named Rosa haggled fiercely over a peso. "This is mine," she snapped, clutching her coins. She didn't see the impermanence. Money comes, money goes. In a tech hub in Singapore, a coder named Wei told me, "I'm my work, if it fails, I fail." His ignorance of no-self fueled his Baba tanha, tying his worth to code. In a retreat in Iceland, a woman named Freya said, "I hate my anger, I need it gone." Her Vibhava tanha grew from not seeing. Anger too is a passing cloud, not hers. I've stumbled here too. In my early monastic days, I clung to my practice hours of meditation, perfect posture, thinking it defined me. When illness broke my streak, I raged, blind to the truth, there's no fixed me to defend. Ignorance feeds tanha, and tanha feeds dukkha. Modern craving, a mirror to our lives. Let's bring this home. Look at your day through this lens. You're stuck in traffic, horn blaring, mad at the delay, kama tanha craving speed, ease, a smooth ride. You scroll Instagram, envying a friend's beach vacation, Baba tanha craving their joy, their better life. You replay a mistake at work, wishing it undone, Vibhava tanha craving a past without flaws. These aren't ancient sins, they're human, pulsing in us now. I've watched it unfold. In Silicon Valley, coders chase the next app, the next million, Baba tanha driving sleepless nights. In rural Laos, farmers scan the sky for rain, kama tanha for a good harvest, suffering when clouds fail. In a Seattle coffee shop, a barista named Lily told me, I need everyone to like me. I smile till my face hurts. I smiled back. What if you didn't? She blinked, stunned, as if the question cracked a wall. That's the second truth, see the craving, see the cause. In a subway in Tokyo, I saw a man grip his briefcase, muttering about a late train, tanha for control. In a slum in Nairobi, a girl named Aisha clutched a torn doll, crying for a new one, tanha for something to call hers. In a bar in Buenos Aires, a man downed shots to forget a fight, tanha fleeing pain. Craving is our shadow, following us from dawn to dusk. Stories of tanha, a global echo. Let me paint you a gallery of tanha from my travels. In a fishing village in Portugal, I met Miguel, a man whose nets came up empty. I need the sea to give me fish, he said, fists clenched, tanha for abundance, suffering in its absence. In a corporate tower in Dubai, a woman named Noor confessed, I crave the corner office, it's proof I'm enough. Her tanha for status left her hollow, despite her title. In a refugee camp in Jordan, a boy named Omar told me, I want my old home back, I hate this tent. His tanha for a lost past deepened his dukkha. In a classroom in Cape Town, a teacher named Sarah said, I need my students to respect me, if they don't, I've failed. Her tanha tied her peace to others' nods. In a forest in Brazil, an elder named João stared at a felled tree. I wanted it gone, it blocked my view, he said, regret in his voice, tanha birthing new pain. In a cafe in Sydney, a teen named Ethan scrolled his phone, chasing likes, tanha for a dopamine hit, suffering when it faded. The gift of seeing, clarity, not condemnation. Here's the beauty, the second noble truth isn't judgment, it's liberation. The Buddha didn't name tanha to shame us, he named it to free us. In a retreat in Oregon, a man named Paul said, I'm addicted to my anger, it's how I fight. I asked, what's it craving? He paused, then said, power. Seeing it, he softened, not overnight, but the seed was planted. That's the gift, clarity cuts the strings. I've lived it. After a tough day teaching in Paris, I craved silence, tanha for peace. When a student interrupted, I snapped, then caught myself. What am I holding? I traced it, control, and let it go. The dukkha eased, not because the world changed, but because I saw. The Buddhist truth is a compass, find the cause, and you find the way out. Practice, tracing the source. Let's do this together. Find a quiet space, your room, a park, a corner of your day. Sit tall, shoulders soft. Rest your hands on your knees, palms open. Close your eyes. Take 5 deep breaths, inhale for 4, exhale for 6. Feel your body root, your mind still. Now, recall a recent suffering, a frustration, a hurt, a restless itch. Maybe it was a fight with a friend, a missed deadline, a night of worry. Ask gently, what was I craving? What did I cling to or push away? Was it peace in chaos? Love from someone cold? A perfect me? Trace it like a river to its source. Sit with it, don't judge, don't fix. Then whisper, this craving isn't me, it's passing. Picture it as a leaf on a stream, drifting away. Stay there for 2 minutes. Feel the space it leaves. Open your eyes. This is the second truth in your hands, not a theory, but a living shift. You're not erasing tanha, you're seeing it, loosening its grip. Reflections, living with the cause. Living with tanha isn't about killing it, it's about dancing with it. In a retreat in India, a woman named Priya said, I crave my kids' success, it's all I think about. I asked, what if you held it lighter? She tried, and her dukkha softened, not gone, but gentler. In a bar in New Orleans, a man named Ray laughed, I chase whiskey every night, guess I'm caught. We traced it, escape, and he grinned, maybe water tonight. Small steps, big shifts. The Buddha faced tanha under the Bodhi tree, Mara's temptations of pleasure, power, avoidance, and saw through them. In a village in Ghana, a farmer named Kofi told me, I craved rain, but it didn't come. So I dug a well. That's the dance, see the craving, then move with wisdom. Closing, the mirror of truth. The second noble truth is your mirror. It reflects tanha, pleasure, existence, escape, and the ignorance beneath. I've carried it from Kyoto to Kenya, seen it wake people up. In a park in Berlin, a girl asked, "Why do I want so much?" I said, "Because you're human. Now look at it." She smiled, lighter. Take this truth with you. Watch your cravings, the big ones, the small ones, the quiet ones. Don't fight them. See them. Breathe with them. They're not your jailers, they're your teachers. May you walk with clarity, with grace, with freedom.